Why don't you just disappear? My stepdaughter snapped during a fight. Her father joined in, we'd be better off without you. I didn't say a word, just packed my bags. This morning, my phone blew up with 13 missed calls. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. Something felt wrong the moment I walked into our living room this Sunday morning. The house was unusually quiet, a heavy, suffocating silence that seemed to press against my eardrums. Usually, by 9 in the morning, the television would be humming with the morning news, or I'd hear the clatter of Mark trying to make pancakes in the kitchen, a messy ritual I used to find endearing. But today, the air was still. Stagnant. I tightened the belt of my robe, shivering slightly despite the central heating being on. It was a gray, drizzle-soaked morning in Boston, the kind of weather that seeps into your bones, but the chill I felt had nothing to do with the temperature outside. My eyes swept across the room, trying to place what was off. The furniture was in the same place. The curtains were drawn. Then it hit me. I stepped closer to the large oak mantel above the fireplace. It was the centerpiece of our home, the place where we displayed the story of our family. Just yesterday, there were 5 frames there. A beautiful progression of the last 5 years. There was the photo from our trip to Yellowstone last summer, one from Lily's middle school graduation, and a candid shot of the 3 of us laughing at a barbecue. I reached out, my hand trembling slightly, and picked up the Yellowstone frame. The glass was cold against my fingertips. The photo was there, but I wasn't. Every picture of me had been carefully removed. It wasn't just that the frames were gone, the photos themselves had been altered. In the Yellowstone picture, someone had taken a pair of scissors and jaggedly cut me out of the frame, leaving an awkward, jagged white void next to Mark and Lily. It was surgical, deliberate, and violent. I moved to the next frame. This was supposed to be the 3 of us at Thanksgiving. Now, it was just Mark and Lily. But what made my stomach turn wasn't just my absence. It was what had been added. Tucked into the corner of the frame, taped over where my face used to be, was a faded, grainy photo of a woman with blonde hair and a dazzling, artificial smile. Jessica. Mark's ex-wife. Lily's biological mother. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stood there, the mutilated photo frame in my hand, my coffee cup growing cold on the coaster nearby. It was one thing to be angry. It was one thing to fight. But this? This was an erasure. It was a statement that the last 5 years, the years I had spent paying off Mark's debts, funding Lily's education, nursing them through flu seasons and heartbreaks, had never happened. In their minds, I was already gone. I heard the soft click of a door closing upstairs. Then, footsteps. Lily. My stepdaughter paused at the top of the stairs. I didn't turn around immediately. I took a breath, trying to compose my face, trying to push down the rising tide of nausea. When I finally turned, Lily was coming down the stairs, phone in hand. She was wearing her pajamas, looking so much like the little girl I had tucked in 1,000 times, yet her eyes were hard, stranger's eyes. She saw me standing there, holding the frame. She saw the evidence of her handiwork. For a second, I expected her to look guilty. I expected the 16-year-old girl who used to ask me for advice on boys to flush with embarrassment. But she didn't. She looked right through me, her chin lifted in a defiant, haughty challenge. "Morning," I said. My voice sounded thin, brittle in the empty room. Lily didn't answer. She walked right past me, the fabric of her pajama bottoms brushing against my leg. She went straight to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and took out a carton of orange juice. She poured a glass, drank it with her back to me, and then placed the glass in the sink with a loud clatter. "Lily?" I asked, stepping into the kitchen doorway. "The photos." "Why?" She spun around, her face twisting into a sneer that looked too old for her features. It looks better that way, doesn't it? More authentic. Real family. Real family? I repeated, the hurt finally bleeding into my tone. I've been here for 5 years, Lily. I'm the one who drove you to dance practice. I'm the one who... You're the one who tried to buy us, she snapped, cutting me off. You think because you have a fancy job and pay the bills, you own us? You don't. You're just the bank. And we're tired of the transaction. She brushed past me again, heading back to the stairs. Mom is back, Sarah. My real mom. And she doesn't need to buy my love. She just has it. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the world. I looked down at my hands. I was still wearing my wedding ring. It felt heavy, like a shackle. The cruelty of it wasn't random. I knew that. It was the aftershock of last night. But seeing the physical manifestation of their hatred, my face cut out of our memories, made something inside me snap. Not a loud, explosive snap, but a quiet, irreversible fracture. I walked back to the living room and placed the frame face down on the table. The silence of the house wasn't peaceful anymore. It was hostile. It was a message. And for the first time in 5 years, I decided to listen to what they were really saying. To understand why I walked out the door that morning, you have to understand what happened the night before. The silence of Sunday morning was just the echo of the explosion from Saturday night. It had started over something trivial, as these things often do. A credit card notification on my phone. We were sitting at the dinner table. Mark was scrolling through his phone, ignoring the pot roast I'd spent 3 hours making, his favorite. Lily was texting rapidly under the table, a smirk playing on her lips. Lily, I had said, keeping my voice calm. I just got an alert. A $300 charge at Sephora? You know the limit on the emergency card is for emergencies. Or school supplies. Not makeup. Lily didn't even look up. It's not just makeup. It's an investment. Mom says appearance is capital. Mom? I paused, my fork hovering halfway to my mouth. You mean Jessica? Yes, Jessica. My mother, Lily snapped, finally looking at me with blazing eyes. She's back in town, in case you haven't heard. And she knows more about style and success than you ever will with your boring gray suits and bean-counting spreadsheets. I looked at Mark, waiting for him to intervene. Waiting for him to say, Lily, don't talk to Sarah like that. She provides everything for you. But Mark just sighed, pushing his plate away. Lay off her, Sarah. The kid just wants to look nice. Jessica is back, and Lily wants to make a good impression. Why do you always have to be so controlling about money? Controlling? I felt the heat rise in my neck. Mark, I'm the only one putting money into the accounts. That card is linked to my salary. We are saving for her college fund. Every $300 she blows on lipstick is $300 less for her tuition. Oh, my God. Lily threw her phone onto the table with a crash. Money, money, money. That's all you ever talk about. You think you're so superior because you're a forensic accountant or whatever. You're just boring. You're suffocating us. I am trying to secure your future. I raised my voice, the frustration of months of ungratefulness bubbling over. I don't want your future. Lily screamed, standing up. Her chair scraped violently against the hardwood floor. I want my family. My real family. Why are you even here? Nobody wants you here. Why don't you just disappear? The room went dead silent. The words hung in the air, vibrating. Why don't you just disappear? I looked at Lily, stunned. Then I looked at Mark. This was the moment. This was the moment a husband defends his wife. This was the moment a partner steps up. Mark looked at me. His eyes were cold, filled with a mixture of resentment and exhaustion. He looked at my manicured nails, my professional haircut, the subtle signs of the success that he had never been able to achieve himself. Maybe she's right, Mark said quietly. I blinked. Excuse me? I said, maybe she's right. Mark's voice gained a little more strength, fueled by his own inadequacy. We're never happy anymore, Sarah. You're always auditing us. Judging us. Judging me. Maybe we'd all be better off without you constantly hovering over us. I felt the blood drain from my face. It was as if the floor had opened up beneath my chair. You don't mean that, I whispered. I think I do, Mark said, picking up his wineglass and taking a long swallow. Jessica is back. She's changed. She's successful now. She gets us. You're just a reminder of the hard times. I stood up slowly. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my plate. A strange, icy calm washed over me. It was the clarity of absolute devastation. Okay, I said. Okay, what? Lily challenged, crossing her arms. Okay. If that's how you both feel. I turned and walked out of the dining room. I went upstairs to the master bedroom, the room I had painted, the room where I had held Mark when he was crying about his debts 5 years ago. I pulled out my old travel suitcase from the back of the closet. I packed methodically. I didn't pack everything. Just enough for a week. My suits. My toiletries. The jewelry I had bought for myself. I left the necklace Mark had given me for our first anniversary, a cheap, silver thing that I had cherished more than diamonds because I thought it represented love. I left it on the dresser. I could hear them downstairs. They weren't fighting. They were talking in hushed, conspiratorial tones. They probably thought I was bluffing. They probably thought I was upstairs crying, waiting for Mark to come up and apologize so I could forgive him like I always did. But I wasn't crying. I was done. I walked down the stairs, suitcase in hand. The living room was empty now, they were hiding in the kitchen. I walked to the front door. I placed my house key, the key to the house I paid the mortgage on the entry table. I'm respecting your wishes, I said loud enough for them to hear. I'm disappearing. Mark poked his head out of the kitchen. He looked surprised to see the suitcase. Sarah, stop being dramatic. Where are you going to go at 10 o'clock at night? That's not your concern anymore, I said. You said you'd be better off without me. Let's test that theory. I opened the door. The Boston rain hit my face, cold and sharp. I didn't look back. I dragged my suitcase to my car, threw it in the trunk, and backed out of the driveway. As I drove away, I saw the silhouette of Mark watching from the window. He didn't come out. He didn't try to stop me. That was last night. And now, seeing the cut-up photos this morning, realizing they had spent the time after I left not regretting their words, but erasing my existence. I knew I wasn't going back. I drove straight to Brenda's. Brenda has been my best friend since college, a shark of a divorce lawyer with a heart of gold that she keeps well hidden under designer blazers. She took one look at me standing in her doorway, soaking wet and shivering, and didn't ask a single question. She just pulled me inside, poured me a glass of whiskey, and set up the guest room. I took a sleeping pill from my emergency stash. I needed to shut my brain off. I needed the oblivion of sleep because the reality of my life was too jagged to touch. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through Brenda's unfamiliar curtains. For a split second, I forgot. I reached out to the other side of the bed, expecting to feel Mark's warmth. But the sheets were cool and empty. Then, the memory of the night, the fight, the suitcase, the cut-up photos, crashed down on me like a landslide. I sat up and grabbed my phone from the nightstand. I had turned it off the night before. I held the power button, my stomach twisting in knots. As soon as the screen lit up, it exploded. Ding. 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 A relentless cascade of notifications. 13 missed calls. 8 from Mark. 3 from Lily. 2 from numbers I didn't recognize. 27 text messages. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. Part of me, the weak, conditioned part of me, wanted to call back immediately. To check if they were okay. To see if they had realized their mistake. To fix it. That's what I did. I was the fixer. But then I remembered the photos. The scissors. Why don't you just disappear? I put the phone down, face down, on the duvet. I wasn't ready to hear their voices. Not yet. I got out of bed and walked to the window, looking out over the Boston skyline. My mind drifted back, pulled by the gravity of the past. I needed to remember why this hurt so much. I needed to remember where we started to understand how we ended up here. 5 years ago. I met Mark at a vulnerable time in my life. I was 37, divorced from a man who had cheated on me, and I had just been told by my doctor that having children of my own was likely impossible. I threw myself into my work as a forensic accountant. I hunted down hidden assets and exposed financial lies for a living. It was satisfying, black and white work. Then I met Mark. He was a mess, frankly. A charming, sad mess. He was a mid-level sales manager drowning in debt. His wife, Jessica, had left him 6 months prior. And she hadn't just left, she had scorched the earth. She ran off to Florida with a wealthy real estate developer, leaving Mark with a mountain of credit card debt she had racked up in his name, a mortgage he couldn't afford, and an 11-year-old daughter who cried herself to sleep every night. I didn't fall in love with Mark for his money, he had negative equity. I fell in love with him because I saw a man trying to be a father against impossible odds. And I fell in love with Lily. God, Lily. She was so small then. So broken. I remember the first time I met her. She was sitting on the stairs, clutching a ragged stuffed rabbit, waiting for a mom who wasn't coming back. I sat down next to her. I didn't try to be her mom. I just offered to help her with her math homework. Slowly, painfully, we built a life. I used my savings, my entire life savings, to pay off the $40,000 of debt Jessica had left behind. I refinanced the house in my name to save it from foreclosure. I paid for Lily's braces. I paid for her dance lessons. I paid for the therapy she needed to get over the abandonment trauma. I became the stabilizer. The rock. I remember nights holding Mark while he sobbed into my shoulder, telling me I was his angel, his savior. He told me he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me. I don't know what I would do without you, Sarah, he had said. You saved us. And I believed him. I believed we were a team. I thought that by fixing them, I was fixing myself, filling that empty space where my own biological children would never be. But there was always a ghost in the house. Jessica. She never called. She never paid a dime of child support. But her absence was a presence. Mark never spoke ill of her to Lily, which I thought was noble at the time. Now, I realized it was because he was still holding a candle for her. He remembered the exciting, beautiful, wild Jessica. He forgot the Jessica who stole his identity and left him bankrupt. And Lily? Lily created a fantasy version of her mother. A victim of circumstance. A princess in a tower far away in Florida. I was the one who made her eat vegetables. I was the one who limited screen time. I was the one who said no to the expensive sneakers because we needed to fix the roof. I became the villain simply by being the parent who was actually there. I looked at my reflection in Brenda's guest room mirror. I looked tired. I looked used. For 5 years, I had been the frantic glue holding the shattered pieces of their lives together. And the moment the real mother came back, the moment a flashier, easier option appeared, they didn't just discard me. They wanted to erase me. Brenda knocked on the door, interrupting my spiral. She walked in holding her iPad and a cup of coffee. Her face was grim. "You awake?" she asked. "Yeah," I croaked. "Sorry about the mess." "Forget the mess," Brenda said, sitting on the edge of the bed. She didn't offer me a hug. Brenda offers strategy, not sympathy. "I know you haven't looked at your phone, and that's good. Don't. But you need to see this." She tapped the screen of her iPad and handed it to me. "The reason your husband suddenly grew a spine and decided to kick out his meal ticket? She's here." I took the iPad. On the screen was a Facebook profile. The profile picture showed a woman with blindingly white veneers, platinum blonde extensions, and a very low-cut designer dress, holding a champagne flute. Jessica. The location tag read, The Ritz-Carlton, Boston Common. "She's back," I whispered. "Oh, she's not just back, honey," Brenda said, her voice dripping with lawyerly cynicism. "She's back and she's rebranding. Look at the posts." I scrolled down, and what I saw made my blood run cold. I stared at the screen, scrolling through Jessica's life as if watching a car crash in slow motion. It was a masterclass in superficiality. The first photo was of Jessica posing in the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton. She was wearing a sequined dress that looked like it cost more than my car. The caption read, "Boston, I'm back. Taking the city by storm. #CEO, #bossbabe, #homecoming." I scoffed. CEO? The last I heard, she was a receptionist at a tanning salon in Tampa. I scrolled down. The next photo hit me harder. It was taken last night. It was a selfie of Jessica and Lily. They were sitting in a dimly lit, expensive restaurant. I recognized the tablecloths. It was L'Espalier, a place Mark and I only went for major anniversaries. Lily was wearing heavy makeup, her lips painted a dark crimson, looking far older than 16. Jessica had her arm around her, pressing her cheek against Lily's. The caption, "Reunited with my mini-me. Missed you so much, princess. Real mom, real love. No one can break our bond. #family first, #my girl. Real mom." The words were a deliberate slap in the face. I zoomed in on the photo. I looked at Lily's eyes. They were shining, wide with adoration. She looked like she was in the presence of a celebrity. And then, I saw the next photo. Mark was in it. He was sitting across from them, holding a glass of red wine. He was wearing his good suit, the one I bought him for his cousin's wedding. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at Jessica. And the look on his face, it was pathetic. It was the look of a starving dog watching someone hold a steak. It was a mix of awe, hunger, and desperate validation. He was tagged in the photo. Jessica had written, "Dinner with the old crew. So good to see Mark doing well. Forgiveness is key to success. #co-parenting goals. Doing well?" I muttered to the empty room. He's doing well because I paid off his $40,000 in debt. Brenda took a sip of her coffee, watching me closely. "Keep looking. Look at the details, Sarah. You're the forensic accountant. Don't look at the smiles. Look at the money." I blinked, shifting my mental gear from hurt wife to professional auditor. I looked at the photo of Jessica again. I zoomed in on the handbag sitting on the table next to her. It was a Hermes Birkin. Orange crocodile skin. A bag that retails for over $30,000. But something was off. The stitching near the handle. It was slightly uneven. And the hardware, it was a little too shiny, a little too gold. The bag is fake, I said. It's a high-quality replica, but it's fake. The clasp is wrong. Bingo, Brenda said. And look at the jewelry. I zoomed in on the diamond bracelet on her wrist. In the lighting of the restaurant, it didn't refract light the way real diamonds do. It looked flat. Cubic zirconia. It's all a costume, I said, realizing what I was seeing. The hotel check-in, the dinner, she's putting on a show. Exactly, Brenda nodded. But why? Why come back after 5 years of radio silence and pretend to be a millionaire? To get something, I said, a knot forming in my stomach. Jessica never does anything unless there's a payoff. My phone buzzed again on the bed. I picked it up. A text from Mark. Mark, stop ignoring us. You're being childish. We just want to talk. Jessica wants to clear the air. She's willing to be the bigger person. The audacity took my breath away. She's willing to be the bigger person? The woman who abandoned them? I typed back, my thumbs hitting the screen hard. I'm not interested in her apologies. I'm interested in why you think it's okay to cut me out of family photos. Mark's reply came instantly. Mark, it's not about the photos, Sarah. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Jessica is trying to make up for lost time. She has a huge opportunity for us. She wants to help us. She's changed. Help us? Mark, she stole from you. Mark, that was in the past. People grow. She's a businesswoman now. She has a tech startup in Florida. She wants Lily to be part of it. She wants to secure Lily's future. Something you're always nagging about but never actually doing anything fun about. I stared at the phone. Tech startup. The words felt alien coming from Mark. He thinks she's rich, I told Brenda. He thinks she's back to save them. That's why he kicked me out. He thinks he's trading up. He thinks he's swapping the boring, strict accountant for the glamorous, wealthy CEO. He's an idiot, Brenda stated flatly. He is, I agreed. But he's a dangerous idiot. If he thinks she has money, he's going to do whatever she says. I looked at the photo of Lily again. The real mom caption burned into my retinas. They were dazzling her. They were buying her loyalty with fake Birkins and expensive dinners, while I was the one who had sat up with her when she had the flu, holding her hair back while she threw up. I felt a surge of protective instinct war with my anger. Lily was 16. She was impressionable. And she was walking right into a trap. I need to know what she's doing, I said, standing up. I need to know where this money is supposedly coming from. I can put my PI on it, Brenda offered. But Sarah, are you sure you want to engage? You're out. You're free. You could just divorce him, take your half of the house equity, and walk away. I walked to the window, looking at the gray city. I could. And part of me wants to. But Lily. Mark is a grown man, he can ruin his life if he wants. But Lily is a child. If Jessica is running a scam, she's going to use Lily. I can't let that happen. I turned back to Brenda. Find out everything about this tech startup. I want to know exactly what kind of opportunity she's selling. Over the next 3 days, I stayed at Brenda's, maintaining radio silence with Mark and Lily. I didn't go home. I went to work, kept my head down, and tried to ignore the whispering of my colleagues who noticed I was wearing the same 2 suits on rotation. But while I wasn't talking to them, I was watching. In the age of social media, privacy is a myth. Lily's Instagram was a live feed of her own self-destruction, and it was breaking my heart to watch. On Monday, she posted a picture of herself in the school bathroom. The caption, "Too cool for school." Literally. #future entrepreneur. She was wearing a crop top that violated the school dress code, something I would never have let her leave the house in. But what worried me more was the location tag. It was 11 a.m. She should have been in AP Chemistry. On Tuesday, I got an email. Even though I had left the house, my email was still listed as the primary contact for the school. It was an automated notification from the Newton North High School attendance system. Lily Evans was absent from 3rd, 4th, and 5th period. I called the school guidance counselor, Mrs. Gable. We had a good relationship. I had worked closely with her to get Lily into the advanced placement program. "Sarah," Mrs. Gable sounded relieved when I picked up. "I've been trying to reach Mark, but his voicemail is full. Is everything okay at home?" "There are some changes," I said carefully. "Why? What's going on?" "Lily came to my office yesterday," Mrs. Gable said, her voice lowered with concern. "She requested to drop all her AP classes. Chemistry, calculus, and English literature. She wants to switch to the basic electives." My hand gripped the phone. "What?" "No. She's an A student. She's aiming for Wellesley or Boston College. We have a plan." "That's what I told her," Mrs. Gable sighed. But she was adamant. She said college is a scam for people who want to be wage slaves. She said her mother, she specified her real mother, is setting her up with a position in her company, and she needs to focus on networking and personal branding instead of calculus. Networking? I felt sick. She's 16, Mrs. Gable. I know. I didn't sign the drop forms yet. I told her I needed parental consent. But Sarah, she was aggressive. Completely different from the polite girl I've known for 3 years. She was wearing very expensive-looking clothes, and, well, she was chewing gum and rolling her eyes at me. "Do not sign those forms," I instructed, my voice firm. "I do not consent." Keep stalling her. I hung up, shaking. It was happening faster than I thought. Jessica wasn't just buying her affection, she was dismantling Lily's future. She was poisoning her mind with get-rich-quick nonsense. That evening, another photo popped up on my feed. It was Lily and Jessica at a car dealership. They were posing next to a white BMW convertible. Caption, "Manifesting this baby. Mom says if I hit my targets this month, the keys are mine. #dreamcar #hustle. Targets? What targets?" I zoomed in on the photo. In the background, I saw Mark. He was talking to a salesman, looking at a financing sheet with a look of utter panic on his face. He looked sweaty. He looked like a man who was trying to buy a lifestyle he couldn't afford to impress a woman who didn't respect him. I realized then that my silence was no longer an option. If I waited any longer, Lily would drop out of school, and Mark would sign away everything we had built. I needed to confront him. Not with emotion, that hadn't worked on Sunday. I needed to confront him with reality. I texted Mark. We need to talk. Not about feelings. About the house title. Meet me at Starbucks on Elm Street tomorrow at 8 a.m. He replied instantly. "Mark, finally coming to your senses? See you there." I threw the phone onto Brenda's couch. Coming to my senses, I laughed bitterly. He has no idea. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about Lily. I remembered teaching her how to ride a bike. I remembered her crying when she got braces, and me making her mashed potatoes for a week. I remembered her telling me, just last year, "You're the only one who gets me, Sarah." How did we lose all that in 48 hours? How was the pull of biology so strong that it erased 5 years of devotion? It wasn't just biology, I realized. It was the seduction of easy. I was the hard work. I was the homework, the chores, the budget. Jessica was the party. And for a teenager, the party always looks better than the homework. But the party always ends. And when the lights come on and the bill arrives, I knew exactly who would be left to clean up the mess. I just prayed I could stop them before the bill became too high to pay. Mark walked into the Starbucks 5 minutes late, wearing a suit that I recognized immediately. It was an Armani suit he had bought at an outlet mall 4 years ago for a friend's wedding. It was a nice suit, but he had gained about 15 pounds since then, and the fabric was straining visibly across his chest and shoulders. He looked uncomfortable, trying to project an air of wealthy confidence while constantly tugging at his cuffs. He didn't order a coffee. He just sat down opposite me, placing a leather folder on the table. "You look tired," he said, not with concern, but with a smug sort of observation. "I'm sleeping on a friend's couch, Mark." "Of course I'm tired," I replied, sipping my black coffee. "Let's skip the pleasantries. You wanted to talk about Jessica's opportunity. Mark straightened up, a gleam entering his eyes. "Yes. Look, Sarah, I know things got heated. But Jessica, she's really onto something huge. It's a revolutionary platform. She calls it femtech. It's a direct-to-consumer model for high-end lifestyle products, empowered by a digital currency layer." I stared at him. "That is a word salad, Mark. It means nothing. What is the business?" "It's an exclusive distribution network," Mark said, getting defensive. "She has the rights to a new line of anti-aging biotech from Switzerland. She's letting me in on the ground floor as a Tier 1 investor. Do you know what that means? It means passive income. It means we stop scraping by." "We aren't scraping by," I corrected him. "We have savings. We have retirement accounts. Or, we did." I looked at him sharply. "How much is the buy-in?" Mark shifted in his seat, avoiding my eyes. "The Tier 1 buy-in is significant. But the returns are guaranteed. 20% monthly." 20% monthly? I almost laughed. "Mark, Bernie Madoff promised 10% annually. 20% monthly is impossible. It's a scam." "It's not a scam." Mark slammed his hand on the table, startling the woman at the next table. He lowered his voice, leaning in, his face red. "You're just jealous. You can't stand that she succeeded. You can't stand that I might succeed without you. I would love for you to succeed, Mark. But this isn't success. It's math. Where is the money coming from?" "It doesn't matter," Mark hissed. "She needs the capital by Friday to secure the shipment. I need you to sign the papers." He slid the leather folder toward me. I opened it. It was a home equity line of credit, HELIC, application. He wanted to pull $200,000 of equity out of our house. The house I had refinanced. The house I paid the mortgage on. "You want to mortgage the house?" I asked, my voice deadly quiet. "This is our home. This is Lily's stability. It's just temporary," Mark insisted. "We put the money in, we get the shipment, we flip it, and I pay the loan back in 60 days. Plus 50 grand profit. Think about it, Sarah. We could pay off the mortgage entirely by next year. We could buy Lily that car she wants. She's 16. She doesn't need a BMW. She needs a college fund." "Jessica says college is old school," Mark parroted the line I had heard from Mrs. Gable. "She wants Lily to be the face of the youth brand. A co-founder." I looked at the papers. I looked at Mark's desperate, sweaty face. He was so delusional it was tragic. He was willing to risk the roof over his daughter's head because his ex-wife flashed a fake Birkin bag and smiled at him. "And if I don't sign?" I asked. Mark's face hardened. The desperation turned into something uglier. Malice. "If you don't sign," he said coldly, "then you're proving you don't care about this family's future. And if you don't care about this family, then maybe we need to formalize your disappearance. I'll sue for full custody of the assets. I'll tell the court you abandoned us." "Abandoned you? You kicked me out." "Did I? Or did you pack a bag and leave?" Mark smirked. "Jessica knows a good lawyer. If you don't sign this, Sarah, I will make the divorce so painful, so expensive, you'll wish you had just signed the loan." I stared at him. He was blackmailing me. The man I had saved from bankruptcy was blackmailing me to give money to the woman who bankrupted him. "Mark," I said slowly, "you are about to throw your entire life into a fire." "It's my life to throw," he countered. "Are you going to sign, or are you going to be the enemy?" I looked down at the pen he offered me. Mark is sitting there, arrogant and sweating in his tight suit, threatening to destroy me if I don't help him destroy himself. He's about to hand over our home to the woman who abandoned his daughter. Part of me wants to just walk away, let him sign whatever he wants, and watch him burn when the inevitable crash happens. He deserves it. But then I think of Lily. If he loses the house, Lily has nowhere to go. I'm the only thing standing between my stepdaughter and homelessness. If you're still listening, please hit the like button and comment the number 1 below. Let me know you're on my side. Let me know you see what a fool he is. Your support is the only thing keeping me sane right now. Comment 1 if you think I should fight back. Now, let me tell you what I did with that pen. I picked up the pen. I twirled it between my fingers, watching Mark's eyes track the movement like a hungry cat. "I need 3 days," I said. Mark's face fell. "We don't have 3 days. The window closes Friday." "Today is Tuesday," I said calmly. "If this opportunity is as solid as you say, a 72-hour delay won't kill it. I need to review the terms of the loan. I need to check the interest rates. I'm an accountant, Mark. I don't sign anything without reading the fine print. You know that." I was gambling on his knowledge of my nature. I was always the cautious one. Friday morning, Mark gritted his teeth. "You sign it Friday morning. Or I file the papers." "Friday morning," I agreed. "We can meet here." I stood up and walked out of the Starbucks without looking back. My hands only started shaking when I got into my car. I didn't drive to work. I drove straight to Brenda's office downtown. "He wants to mortgage the house," I told Brenda as I burst into her office, ignoring her secretary. $200,000. Brenda looked up from her desk, her eyes widening. "He's insane." "He's brainwashed," I corrected. I bought myself 3 days. I need to find the dirt, Brenda. I need to prove it's a scam before Friday morning. Okay, Brenda spun her chair around. "My brother at the FBI got back to me this morning. He couldn't run a full official inquiry without a warrant, but he ran a preliminary background check on Jessica Vane and her supposed company, Vane Global Tech. And? Vane Global Tech was incorporated in Delaware 3 weeks ago, Brenda read from a file. Registered agent is a P.O. box in a strip mall in Boca Raton. There are no other filings. No SEC filings. No patent applications for this Swiss biotech. Nothing. It's a shell," I said, feeling the familiar rush of the hunt. "It's a classic shell company." "But here's the kicker," Brenda continued. "Jessica Vane isn't her legal name. She never changed it back after she left Mark. Her legal name is Jessica Miller. But before that, In Florida, she went by Jessica Stone. Brenda slid a mugshot across the desk. It was Jessica, looking younger, less polished, with messy hair and no makeup. Jessica Stone was arrested in 2019 in Tallahassee for check fraud, Brenda said. Charges were dropped because she paid restitution, probably with money she stole from the next guy. But there are civil complaints. 3 of them. Small claims court judgments for unpaid loans and investment opportunities that never materialized. I looked at the mugshot. Small-time grifter. She was, Brenda nodded. But now she's back in Boston, and she's aiming bigger. 200 grand is a big step up from bad checks. She's running a Ponzi scheme, I said, my mind racing. She needs the Tier 1 investors to pay off. Wait, there are no previous investors. She's just collecting the cash to run. Exactly. The shipment from Switzerland doesn't exist. She gets Mark's money, maybe a few of his friends, and then she vanishes again. I need to prove it, I said. A mugshot for check fraud isn't enough for Mark. He'll say she's changed. He'll say I'm digging up ancient history. I need to prove this business is fake. I spent the next 48 hours in what I call forensic mode. I didn't sleep. I sat at Brenda's dining table with 3 laptops open. I reverse image searched every photo on Jessica's Vane Global website. The photo of the Swiss laboratory? It was a stock image from a dental college in Germany. The photo of the executive team? It was stolen from a corporate retreat page of an insurance company in Ohio. The global headquarters? It was a rendering of a building that hadn't been built yet in Dubai. I printed everything. Then I dug into the digital currency angle Mark had mentioned. Jessica was directing people to deposit money into a specific crypto wallet. I traced the wallet address on the blockchain. It wasn't a corporate wallet. It was a personal wallet, and the funds were being immediately funneled out to an offshore exchange known for money laundering, and, this was the smoking gun, to a payment processor for a luxury travel agency. She's not buying biotech, I muttered to myself at 3 a.m. on Thursday. She's booking tickets. I traced the latest transaction. A $15,000 payment to a private jet charter company. Flight scheduled for Sunday morning. Boston to Cabo San Lucas. One way. Sunday, I whispered. She's leaving Sunday. That's why the pressure was on for Friday. She needed the cash to clear before she boarded that plane. I had her. I had the proof. But then, I decided to check one last thing. I logged into my and Mark's joint bank account. I hadn't checked it since I left on Sunday, assuming Mark wouldn't be stupid enough to touch the money while we were in a standoff. I logged in. My breath hitched. The balance, which should have been $52,000, our emergency fund, Lily's partial college savings, was gone. Current balance, $48.50. I clicked on the transaction history. Tuesday. Wire transfer. Recipient, Vane Global Tech LLC. Amount, $51,950. He hadn't waited for the house money. He had already drained us dry. He had given her everything we had liquid access to. The house was just the second course, he had already served her the appetizer. I stared at the screen, tears pricking my eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of pure, white-hot rage. He stole from me. He stole from Lily. He handed our safety net to a woman booking a private jet to Mexico. Okay, Mark, I said to the empty room. You want a meeting on Friday? Let's have a meeting. I picked up my phone and called Brenda. Change of plans, I said, my voice steady. We aren't meeting at Starbucks. I need you to find out where Jessica is holding her investor gala on Friday night. I'm going to crash the party. Friday arrived with a tense, electric energy. I had spent the morning preparing not for a business meeting, but for an execution. Mark had texted me 3 times asking if I had the papers ready. I replied simply, "I'll bring them to the launch party. I want to celebrate with everyone." He was hesitant at first, but his ego won out. He wanted to show me off as the defeated wife, bending the knee to his new, successful partner. He texted back the location, the ballroom at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. 7 p.m. Dress code is black tie. Don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass him, Brenda laughed as she zipped up the back of my dress. That's rich. I wasn't wearing my usual gray office suit. I had gone to Neiman Marcus and bought a dress I couldn't really afford, though technically, since Mark had drained our account, I put it on a credit card he was authorized on. It was a deep emerald green, silk, floor length. It was armor. You look dangerous, Brenda said. I love it. Do you have the file? I asked. Brenda held up a thick manila folder. Everything. The fake photos, the shell company registration, the flight manifest for Sunday, and the blockchain trace showing the money going to the offshore accounts. Oh, and my brother is bringing 2 of his colleagues. They aren't on official FBI duty, but they are concerned citizens with badges. Good. We arrived at the Fairmont at 7:15. The ballroom was dripping with opulence, or at least, the illusion of it. There were ice sculptures. There was a string quartet. Champagne flowed freely. But I noticed the cracks immediately. The champagne was a cheap sparkling wine, not the moat the label suggested. The flowers were slightly wilted. It was all flash, designed to dazzle the eyes so you didn't check your pockets. I scanned the room. There were about 50 people there. I recognized many of them. Parents from Lily's school. Neighbors. People Mark had known for years. People who trusted him. And there, in the center of the room, was the happy family. Jessica was wearing a white gown that looked bridal. She was holding court, laughing loudly, clutching Mark's arm. Mark was beaming, looking flushed and drunk on attention. And Lily. Lily was standing next to them, wearing a dress that was too short and heels that were too high. She was holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, passing them out to the guests. My heart broke a little. They had turned my brilliant, academic stepdaughter into a waitress for their scam. Mark spotted me. His smile faltered for a second, then he puffed out his chest and whispered something to Jessica. She turned, her eyes scanning me up and down. She smirked. They walked over to us. Sarah, Mark said, his voice booming a little too loud. You made it. And you brought Brenda. He looked nervous seeing the lawyer. I wouldn't miss it, I said, keeping my face impassive. Jessica. Welcome back. So lovely to finally meet the interim help, Jessica said, her voice sugary sweet but her eyes venomous. Mark tells me you're finally on board with the vision. I'm certainly seeing things clearly, I said. Did you bring the papers? Mark hissed, leaning in close to me. The loan documents? I tapped the clutch bag I was holding. I have everything I need right here, Mark. But I think we should wait for the presentation. I want to sign when everyone else does. Solidarity, right? Mark hesitated, sensing a trap, but Jessica squeezed his arm. That's a wonderful idea. A public signing. It will encourage the others. She turned to me, her smile tight. Just try not to look so sour, darling. Tonight is about success. They moved away to greet another couple, the DeVises, whose son was in Lily's class. I saw Mark clap Mr. Davis on the back, pointing to a brochure about Swiss biotech. He's selling them down the river, Brenda whispered. He's actually recruiting his friends. He believes it, I said, watching him. That's the saddest part. He actually believes he's a tycoon. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the small stage at the front of the room. Jessica walked up to the microphone, basking in the applause. "Thank you, everyone," she gushed. "It is so good to be home. For those who don't know me, I'm Jessica Vane. 5 years ago, I left Boston to find myself. And I found the future." She gestured to a large screen behind her. A slick, pre-produced video started playing, showing stock footage of laboratories, gold bars, and happy people on yachts. "Tonight," Jessica continued, "I am offering you a chance to join me. Not just as investors, but as family. My partner, Mark, has already committed." She gestured to Mark, who stood up, waving awkwardly. "Mark has gone all in," Jessica announced. "Because he trusts the vision. And because he loves his daughter." She beckoned Lily to the stage. Lily walked up, looking terrified but trying to smile. "This is all for her," Jessica said, putting a hand on Lily's shoulder. "So she never has to work a boring 9 to 5. So she can be free." The crowd applauded. I saw Mr. Davis reaching for his checkbook. "Now," Jessica said, "Mark is going to kick us off by signing his commitment papers right here on stage." "Mark, darling?" Mark walked up the steps. He looked at me in the crowd, his eyes pleading and demanding at the same time. He motioned for me to come up. "Sarah," he said into the microphone, his voice shaking slightly. "My wife, Sarah, has the documents." The room turned to look at me. The spotlight swung around, blinding me for a second. I took a deep breath. I looked at Brenda. She nodded. I walked toward the stage. I didn't have the loan papers. I had the manila folder. I climbed the steps. The stage was higher than I expected. From up here, I could see everyone. I could see the hope in the Devise's eyes. I could see the greed in Jessica's eyes. I could see the confusion in Lily's eyes. I walked over to the podium. Mark reached for the folder in my hand. "Just give it to me," he whispered. "No," I said, pulling it back. I stepped up to the microphone. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Mark hissed. "I'm helping you," I said loud enough for the mic to catch it. "I'm helping everyone." I opened the folder. I pulled out the first document, the flight manifest. "Before anyone signs anything," I said, my voice steady and clear, echoing through the ballroom, "I think you should all know that the CEO of Vane Global Tech is booked on a one-way flight to Cabo San Lucas leaving this Sunday morning at 8 a.m. And she's not planning on taking any of you with her." The room went deadly silent. Jessica's smile froze. "Security," she shouted. "Get her off the stage. She's drunk." "I'm not drunk," I said, pulling out the next paper. "And I'm not jealous. I'm a forensic accountant. And I have proof that Vane Global Tech is a shell company with 0 assets, 0 products, and a bank account that is currently funneling your money to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands." I looked directly at Mark. "And Mark, the $52,000 you stole from our joint account on Tuesday? It's already gone. She spent $15,000 of it on the private jet." Mark's face went white. He looked at Jessica. "What?" "No," she said, "that money was for inventory." "There is no inventory, Mark," I shouted, finally letting the anger out. "There never was. Look at her." All eyes turned to Jessica. For a second, the mask slipped. The boss babe vanished, and I saw the cornered rat beneath. "She's lying," Jessica screeched, her voice cracking. "She's just a bitter, barren stepmother who hates that my daughter loves me more." It was a low blow. The lowest. But it didn't hurt. Not anymore. Because I saw Lily flinch. I looked at Lily. "Lily, check your phone. I just sent you the photos." The real photos. The stock images she stole. The fake office. Look at them. Lily pulled her phone out of her pocket. She scrolled. Her hands started to shake. She looked up at her mother. "Mom?" Lily whispered. This is the same picture from a dentist's website." The room erupted. The sound of a ballroom turning against you is a unique, terrifying noise. It starts as a low rumble, a collective gasp followed by a murmur of confusion, and then it swells into a roar of indignation. I stood on the stage, the microphone still tight in my hand, watching the empire of lies crumble in real time. The photo on Lily's phone was the spark, but the documents I had just projected onto the screen were the fuel. "This is ridiculous!" Jessica screamed, her voice shrill and breaking, no longer the smooth alto of a confident CEO. She lunged for the laptop connected to the projector, her fingernails clawing at the HDMI cable. "Cut the feed! Turn off the screen! Security! Get this crazy woman off the stage!" But the security guards didn't move. They stood by the exits, arms crossed. Brenda had done her work well. She had informed the hotel management an hour ago that a federal warrant was being executed, and they were instructed to let the scene play out to avoid liability. "You don't need security, Jessica," I said, my voice calm but amplified, echoing off the high, gilded ceilings. "You need a criminal defense attorney." Mark, who had been standing frozen like a statue, finally animated. He looked at the screen, where the bank transfer records were clearly visible. Wire transfer, $51,950 to Cayman Holdings Ltd. It was the money we had saved for 5 years. The money for the roof repair. The money for emergency medical bills. Gone in a single click. "Jessica?" Mark's voice was small, pathetic, barely audible over the rising commotion of the crowd. "Jessica, tell them it's a mistake. Tell them the money is for the inventory. You said the biotech shipment was in customs." Jessica spun on him, her eyes wild. The mask of the loving partner slipped entirely, revealing the cornered animal beneath. She didn't offer him comfort. She didn't offer him an explanation. She offered him up as a sacrifice. "Shut up, Mark! Just shut up," she shrieked, her face twisting into an ugly snarl. "You signed the papers. You're the Tier 1 investor. If there's a problem with the accounts, it's on you. You authorized the transfers." The crowd gasped. In one sentence, she had thrown him to the wolves. "Me?" Mark stammered, stepping back, nearly tripping over the microphone cord. But you said you were the founder." I just gave you the money because I believed in you. You gave me the money because you're a greedy, desperate little man who wanted to feel important." Jessica yelled, pointing a manicured finger at his chest. "You begged to be part of this. Don't you try to pin this on me. You wanted the cars. You wanted the status. You wanted to show up your boring wife." It was a masterclass in gaslighting, unfolding live. But this time, she didn't have a moody teenager and a desperate ex-husband as her only audience. She had a room full of Boston skeptics, and more importantly, people who had just written checks. Mr. Davis, the father of Lily's classmate and the man Mark had been trying to recruit all night, stepped forward. He wasn't a small man, and right now, he looked dangerous. "I wrote you a check for $10,000 20 minutes ago," Mr. Davis boomed, walking toward the stage. "I want it back. Now." "The funds they are already allocated," Jessica stammered, backing away toward the heavy velvet curtains behind the stage. Her eyes darted to her purse, which was sitting on a chair near the podium. "It's a blockchain process, it's instant. I can't just reverse it." "It's theft," someone else shouted from the back. "Call the police." "I already did," I announced into the mic. I looked down at Lily. She was standing at the edge of the stage, paralyzed. She held her phone in one hand and the tray of hors d'oeuvres in the other. The tray was tilting, mini quiches sliding onto the floor, but she didn't notice. She was staring at her mother. "Mom," Lily whispered, but in the silence that had fallen over the immediate vicinity, we all heard it. "You said the money was for my future. You said we were building an empire together." Jessica looked at her daughter. For a split second, I hoped to see regret. I hoped to see a mother's instinct kick in. But all I saw was calculation. Jessica realized the room was lost. She realized Mark was useless. She realized her escape route was closing. She needed a shield. "Lily, honey," Jessica said, her voice dropping to a frantic whisper, ignoring the angry investors closing in. "Grab my purse. The big one. We need to go. Now. These people don't understand visionaries. We'll go to the airport early. Just you and me. Come on. We can still make the flight." She was trying to run. And she was trying to take Lily with her, not out of love, but because a woman traveling with a teenage daughter looks less suspicious to TSA than a woman fleeing a crime scene. Lily looked at the purse sitting on the chair. Then she looked at the screen with the one-way ticket to Cabo. "One ticket," Lily said, her voice trembling. "The manifest says one passenger, Mom." "Just you." Jessica froze. The lie hung in the air, undeniable. "I was going to send for you." Jessica shrieked, desperation clawing at her throat. "Once I got settled. You know how complicated it is with custody. I did it to protect you." "No," Lily said, dropping the tray. The metal clattered loudly against the floor, shattering the tension like glass. "No, you weren't. You were leaving. Again. Just like when I was 11. "Lily, don't be stupid." Jessica started to lunge for her bag, her eyes manic. "Don't touch her," I said. I dropped the microphone. It hit the stage with a thud. I stepped between Jessica and Lily. I am not a violent person. I am an accountant. I deal in spreadsheets and tax codes. But in that moment, standing in my silk dress, staring down the woman who had tormented my family for 5 years, I felt a surge of adrenaline so potent I could have lifted a car. "You are done, Jessica," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "And you aren't going to the airport." As if on cue, the double doors at the back of the ballroom burst open. But it wasn't the hotel staff. It was Brenda, walking in with 3 men. 2 were in suits, 1 was in a Boston police uniform. "Jessica Miller," the police officer announced, his voice booming. "We have a warrant for your arrest." The arrest was chaotic. It wasn't the clean, procedural event you see on television. It was messy, loud, and deeply embarrassing for everyone involved. Jessica didn't put her hands up. She screamed. She threw her fake Hermes bag at the officer, yelling that she was a sovereign citizen and that they had no jurisdiction over her decentralized entity. "Ma'am, stop resisting," the officer said, pinning her arms behind her back. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut cut through her screeching. "Mark," she yelled as they dragged her down the steps of the stage, her heels scraping against the polished wood. "Mark, tell them. You authorized the transfer. You gave me the money as a gift. Tell them this is a misunderstanding." Mark stood there, shaking. He looked like a man waking up from a coma to find his house on fire. He looked at the police, then at Jessica, then at the crowd of people, his friends, his neighbors, who were staring at him with a mixture of pity and absolute disgust. Mark croaked. "I didn't know. I thought it was an investment. I'm a victim here. He's lying." Jessica screamed, realizing her charm wasn't working. She decided to burn the whole house down. He knew. He wanted to hide assets from his wife. He told me he wanted to divorce her and leave her with nothing. He's an accomplice. The accusation hung in the air like toxic smoke. I watched Mark's face drain of color. He looked at me, terrified. He knew that even if it wasn't true, the mere accusation from his business partner was enough to ruin him. But Jessica wasn't done. As the officers pushed her toward the exit, she twisted her head back, her eyes locking onto Lily. And her. Jessica shouted, nodding at Lily. My daughter! She recruited the investors. She sent the texts. She knew everything. She's in on it. The room went dead silent. I felt Lily flinch beside me. It was a physical blow. Her own mother, in a desperate attempt to create confusion or perhaps just to spread the pain, was trying to implicate her 16-year-old daughter. That's a lie! I shouted, my voice cracking with fury. She's a minor. You manipulated her. Check her phone. Jessica laughed maniacally as they shoved her through the doors. She's just like me. She's a little con artist. The doors swung shut, cutting off her laughter, but the damage was done. Lily stood frozen, her face pale as a sheet. She looked at the guests. Mr. Davis was looking at her. Mrs. Gable, the guidance counselor who had been invited, was looking at her. They weren't looking at her with anger, but with suspicion. I didn't. Lily whispered, her hands shaking uncontrollably. I didn't know it was fake. I swear. I grabbed Lily's hand, squeezing it hard. I know. We have the texts, Lily. We have the proof that she threatened you. No one believes her. But I knew that wasn't entirely true. In a town like this, the rumor would stick. Jessica had planted a seed of doubt that would follow Lily for a long time. A detective approached us. He nodded at Brenda, then looked at Mark. Mr. Evans? The detective asked. Mark jumped. Yes. I need to explain. She's crazy. We'll need you to come down to the station to give a statement, the detective said, his tone neutral but firm. Given the amount of money transferred and Ms. Miller's accusations, we need to clarify your role in this venture. And we will need to see your financial records. My role? Mark's voice pitched up an octave. I have no role. I gave her money. I lost money. Sarah, tell them. He turned to me, eyes wide and pleading. He reached out to grab my arm, but I stepped back. Sarah, you know I'm not a criminal. I was stupid. Tell them I'm a good man. I looked at my husband. The man who, 5 days ago, told me I should disappear. The man who cut my face out of our family photos. The man who emptied our joint account and tried to mortgage our home to impress the woman who had just tried to frame our daughter. I can't speak to your intent, Mark, I said coolly. I only know what the numbers say. You transferred $52,000 to a known fraudster without your wife's consent. You tried to coerce me into signing a second mortgage. That's all I know. Mark recoiled as if I had slapped him. Sarah, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. Technically, I said. We are still married. But right now, I'm just a witness. And you are a suspect. Mr. Evans, please come with us, the detective said, placing a hand on Mark's elbow. As he walked past me, led away like a criminal in front of his peers, he whispered, I did this for us. I wanted to be rich for us. No, Mark, I said softly. You did it for you. I turned to Lily. She was trembling violently, on the verge of a panic attack. Come on, I said, putting my arm around her. Let's go home. Home? Lily wiped her mascara-stained eyes. To Dad's house? To our house, I corrected. For tonight, at least. You aren't staying here. And neither is he. We walked out of the ballroom, past the whispering guests. I saw the judgment in their eyes. They were wondering how much I knew. They were wondering if the accountant wife was really as innocent as she claimed. Brenda met us at the valet stand. She looked exhilarated, holding a cigarette she hadn't lit. That, Brenda said, was the most satisfying thing I have seen in 20 years of practicing law. But Sarah, this is just the beginning. The police are going to tear your finances apart. Mark is going to throw you under the bus to save himself. You need to be ready. I'm ready, I said, though I felt like I was about to collapse. I have nothing to hide. Can you handle the police for tonight? I need to get Lily out of here. Go, Brenda said. And Sarah? Change the locks. Again. Just to be safe. The drive back to Newton was suffocating. The silence in the car wasn't peaceful, it was heavy, filled with the unspoken horror of what Jessica had done. Lily sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window. She was shivering, still wearing that tacky, short dress Jessica had bought her. It looked like a costume now, a remnant of a play that had ended in tragedy. She hates me, Lily whispered. It was the first thing she had said in 20 minutes. I kept my eyes on the road. She doesn't hate you, Lily. She hates herself. You were just available. No, Lily shook her head, tears spilling over again. She hates me. She tried to get me arrested, Sarah. She told the police to check my phone. Who does that? What kind of mother does that? A monster, I said firmly. A narcissist who sees people as objects. When you stopped being useful to her escape plan, you became a liability. It has nothing to do with who you are. It has everything to do with who she is. Lily turned to me, her face ravaged by crying. I cut up the photos because she told me you were trying to erase her. She said you were trying to replace her memory. She said if I loved her, I had to prove it by removing you. I wanted to please her so bad. Why am I so stupid? You aren't stupid, I said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. You're 16. And you wanted your mom. That's not a crime. It's a tragedy that she used that against you. We pulled into the driveway. The house was dark. It looked ominous, looming against the night sky. Go upstairs, I told Lily as we walked inside. Take a shower. Wash off the makeup. Put on your oldest, ugliest pajamas. We need to reset. I went to the kitchen and made tea. My hands were shaking. I realized I was terrified. Not of Jessica, she was in a cell, but of what came next. The financial ruin. The social stigma. The divorce war. Around 2 a.m., the doorbell rang. I froze. I knew who it was. I walked to the door but didn't open it. I looked through the peephole. It was Mark. He had been released, presumably after giving his statement. He looked disheveled, his tie missing, his shirt stained with sweat. He looked like a ghost of the man who had strutted around the gala hours earlier. He rang the bell again. Then he started pounding. Sarah, he shouted, his voice slurred. He was drunk? Or just exhausted? Sarah, let me in. I know you're in there. My key isn't working. I opened the door, leaving the chain lock on. The key isn't working because I changed the locks on Wednesday, I said through the crack. Mark blinked, his face crumbling. Changed them? But I live here. This is my house. Actually, I said, my voice steady despite my heart hammering. Since I refinanced it in my name to save it from your last bankruptcy, it's legally my house. And seeing as you just admitted to the police that you gave away our savings to a criminal, I don't feel safe having you inside. Stole? Mark sputtered. I didn't steal. It was a bad investment. I'm your husband. You have to support me. And Jessica was your partner, I said. Go ask her for a place to sleep. Oh wait, she's in jail. Maybe you should have joined her. Sarah, please, Mark began to weep. It was a pathetic, heaving sound. I have nowhere to go. My parents won't take me, Dad hung up on me. I have no money. The police seized my phone as evidence. I have nothing. You should have thought about that before you told me I'd be better off disappearing, I said, the memory of those words stealing my resolve. Here. I slid a duffel bag through the crack in the door. I had packed it while Lily was showering. What is this? Mark asked, staring at the bag. Clothes. Toiletries. A list of motels that take cash, and $200 I took from the grocery jar. That's it, Mark. That's all the help you get. You can't do this, he whispered, pressing his face against the doorframe. I want to see Lily. I need to explain to her. She knows, I said. She saw you stand there while her mother called her a criminal. She doesn't want to see you. I was in shock. Mark yelled, suddenly angry. I didn't know what to do. That's the problem, Mark. You never know what to do until it's too late. Go away. If you keep shouting, I'm calling the police and telling them you're violating a domestic disturbance order. You wouldn't. Try me. Brenda filed the paperwork this afternoon. It was a bluff, the courts were closed, but he didn't know that. Mark stared at me through the crack. For the first time, he looked at me with fear. He realized the quiet, supportive wife he had taken for granted was gone. He grabbed the bag. You'll pay for this, Sarah. You think you're so high and mighty. Wait until the lawyers get involved. I'm counting on it, I said. I slammed the door and threw the deadbolt. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, listening to his footsteps drag down the driveway. I didn't cry. I didn't feel victorious. I felt like I had just amputated a gangrenous limb to save the rest of the body. It hurt, but it was necessary. Sunday morning brought the digital fallout. The story had hit the local blogs. Gala disaster, fake heiress arrested, husband implicated. I was sitting at the kitchen table with Brenda, who had come over with bagels and a war strategy, when my phone started buzzing with calls from numbers I recognized. Don't answer, Brenda warned. It was Mark's mother, Barbara. Then his sister, Karen. They're circling, I said, looking at the screen. Then, a text from Karen, how dare you lock Mark out of his own home? He is distraught. You are cruel, Sarah. He made a mistake, but you are destroying the family. We know you planned this public humiliation. You're evil. Evil, I read aloud. I'm evil because I stopped him from mortgaging the house to a con artist. They're his family, Brenda said, biting into a bagel. They will defend him because admitting he's a fool means admitting they raised a fool. It's easier to blame the outsider. That's you. But the attacks weren't just personal. They were social. Lily came downstairs around noon. She looked pale. Sarah, don't look at Facebook. Why? The neighborhood group, Lily said, holding out her phone. Mrs. Higgins posted about last night. People are saying, they're saying we were all in on it. They're saying you staged the arrest to get rid of Dad so you could keep the house. I took the phone. The comments were vile. I always thought Sarah was too cold. Poor Mark probably just wanted a way out. Why did the stepdaughter have the tray? She was working the room. They scammed us all. We have to fight this, I said, feeling the anger rise. I can't let them slander us. No, Brenda said sharply. You do not engage in the comments section. That makes you look guilty. We fight this with facts, in court. But Sarah, there's something else. Brenda pulled a file from her briefcase. While I was digging into Mark's finances for the divorce filing, I found something disturbing. I ran a credit check on everyone in the household. You, Mark, and Lily. Lily is 16, I said. She doesn't have credit. Brenda slid a report across the table. Actually, she does. Or rather, someone does in her name. I looked at the document. My breath hitched. There were 3 credit cards opened in the name of Lily Jessica Evans. 2 were maxed out. 1 was in collections. The total debt was over $18,000. The dates, I whispered, scanning the report. These were opened 3 years ago. While Jessica was in Florida. She stole Lily's identity, Brenda said grimly. She used Lily's social security number to open lines of credit because her own credit was shot. She's been ruining Lily's financial future since the kid was 13. I felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just greed, this was predation. Jessica had eaten her own young. Does Mark know? I asked. Look at the cosigner on the first card, Brenda pointed. I looked. Mark Evans. The world spun. He knew. He had co-signed. He had helped Jessica steal their daughter's identity years ago, probably during one of their secret phone calls where she promised to pay it back. He knew, I said, my voice shaking with a rage so pure it felt like ice. He helped her do it. Lily was watching us, confused. What? What did he know? I looked at my stepdaughter. How could I tell her that her father hadn't just been a fool last night, but a willing accomplice to her financial abuse for years? Lily, I said, my voice steady. We found something else. And this is going to hurt. I showed her the report. I explained what it meant. I explained that she was starting her adult life $18,000 in debt because her parents had used her as a piggy bank. Lily didn't cry this time. She went very still. She stared at Mark's signature on the paper. He signed it, she whispered. He told me he would never let her hurt me again. And he signed it. This is it, I told Brenda. I'm not just divorcing him. I'm pressing charges. Identity theft. Fraud. Child endangerment. I want him in jail. That's the spirit, Brenda said. But be warned. When you corner a rat like Mark, and you threaten him with prison, he's going to bite. He's going to come for you with everything he has. Let him come, I said, looking at Lily's devastated face. I have nothing left to lose. But he does. The revelation of the identity theft shifted the ground beneath us. It wasn't just a drama anymore, it was a war. Monday morning, I didn't go to work. I took Lily to the police station. We had to file a separate report for identity theft to begin the process of clearing her credit. It was a humiliating ritual, Lily having to fingerprint and swear that her own parents were the thieves. When we got home, there was a car in the driveway. A familiar Buick. It's his parents, I said, gripping the steering wheel. Mark's parents, Barbara and Jim, were standing on the lawn, staring at the house like they were inspecting a fortress they intended to besiege. Stay in the car, I told Lily. No, Lily said, unbuckling her seatbelt. They're my grandparents. I need to hear what they have to say. We got out. Barbara marched over, her face pinched with self-righteous fury. You changed the locks, she accused, ignoring her granddaughter entirely. Mark is sleeping in our basement on an air mattress. A grown man. You have humiliated this family enough, Sarah. Hello, Barbara, I said calmly. Did Mark tell you why he's in the basement? He told us everything. Jim shouted, stepping forward. He told us how you set him up at that party. How you waited until he was vulnerable to ambush him. And now you're keeping him from his daughter. I'm right here, Grandpa, Lily said, her voice cutting through the noise. Jim looked at her, his expression softening slightly. Lily, honey. Grab your things. You're coming with us. Your dad is worried sick. He wants you safe away from her. He gestured at me with disdain. Safe? I laughed bitterly. Did he tell you about the credit cards, Jim? What credit cards? Barbara snapped. The 3 credit cards Mark co-signed for Jessica using Lily's social security number 3 years ago, I said, enjoying the shock that registered on their faces. $18,000 of debt in your granddaughter's name. We just came from the police station. Lies, Barbara spat. Mark would never. You're making this up to win the divorce. I have the Experian report right here. I pulled the folded paper from my purse. Want to see his signature? Barbara slapped the paper out of my hand. I don't want to see your forgeries. You are a vindictive, barren woman who is jealous that Mark has a real family history. You will never understand what it means to protect your own blood. That word again. Barren. It was their favorite weapon. It was the insult designed to remind me that I wasn't real family. You're right, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I don't have his blood. Thank God. Because his blood seems to carry a gene for cowardice and theft. You bitch. Jim raised his hand. Do it, I dared him. Hit me. There are cameras on the porch. Brenda will love adding assault to the lawsuit. Jim lowered his hand, trembling. Lily, get in the car, Barbara commanded. Now. We are taking you. Lily looked at her grandparents. These were the people who gave her cookies at Christmas. The people she loved. And they were standing there, calling the woman who saved her barren and defending the man who stole her identity. No, Lily said. Excuse me? Barbara gasped. I said no. Lily stepped closer to me. Sarah isn't the one who stole from me. Dad did. Mom did. And if you're defending them, then you're stealing from me too. Lily, you are brainwashed. Barbara cried. Get off my property, I said. Now. Or I call the police. And I think the Newton police are very interested in anyone connected to Mark Evans right now. They left, screaming insults out the window of their Buick. We went inside. Lily collapsed onto the sofa. She didn't cry. She just stared at the ceiling. I lost them, she whispered. I lost my parents. Now I lost my grandparents. I have no one. You have me, I said, sitting beside her. For how long? She asked, turning to me with haunted eyes. Eventually, you'll meet someone else. Someone normal. And you'll realize that carrying around a bankrupt ex-husband's traumatized daughter is too much baggage. Lily, I took her face in my hands. I am not going anywhere. We are going to fix your credit. We are going to get you into college. And we are going to burn their lies to the ground. But the war wasn't over. That afternoon, I received an email from Mark's lawyer, a cheap strip mall attorney he must have hired with borrowed money. Motion for emergency custody. Mark was claiming I was mentally unstable. He was claiming I had kidnapped Lily and was holding her hostage. He was demanding immediate physical custody. He's trying to force you to drop the fraud charges, Brenda explained over the phone. He's using Lily as a bargaining chip. If you drop the identity theft charges, he'll back off on custody. He wants me to trade justice for his daughter? I asked, sickened. He's desperate, Sarah. Prison is staring him in the face. He'll do anything. I won't drop the charges, I said. And he won't get custody. Because I have one more card to play. What card? The wiretap, I said. What wiretap? Brenda asked, confused. I installed a nanny cam in the living room 3 months ago, I lied. Well, not a lie. I bought one to watch the dog when he was sick. But I never took it down. It records audio. Sarah, Brenda's voice went serious. Massachusetts is a 2-party consent state. You can't use secret recordings in court. I know, I said. I can't use it in court. But I can play it for Mrs. Gable. I can play it for the guardian ad litem. I can let them hear Mark and Jessica talking last week, before the gala. Discussing how they were going to milk the cow, meaning me, before dumping Lily at a boarding school in Switzerland. You have that on tape? I do, I said. The night I left? The camera was rolling. It was a risky move. But I was done playing by the rules of a game they had rigged. The nanny cam was a bluff. I didn't have a recording of them discussing boarding school. I wished I did. But I knew Mark. I knew he was paranoid. And I knew that if I told him I had a recording, he would panic. I agreed to meet Mark and his lawyer at Brenda's office for a deposition. Mark walked in looking smug. He thought the custody motion had me cornered. He thought I would fold to keep Lily. Sarah, Mark nodded, sitting down. Ready to be reasonable? Drop the identity theft report, give me half the equity in the house, and we can discuss a visitation schedule for Lily. Visitation? I looked at him. Mark, you aren't getting visitation. You're getting a restraining order. I'm her father. Mark slammed his hand on the table. You can't keep her from me. I can when you are a danger to her, I said. Then, I slid a USB drive across the table. It was empty. It contained nothing but a few recipes I had saved. But Mark didn't know that. What's this? His lawyer asked. Audio recordings, I said calmly. From the living room. The week before the gala. Specifically, the conversation on Thursday night where Mark and Jessica discussed sending Lily to a boarding school in Europe that turned out to be a youth hostel with no accreditation, just to get her out of the way while they spent the money. Mark went pale. That, we never. I didn't say that. Didn't you? I raised an eyebrow. Are you sure, Mark? Because Jessica was very vocal. And you agreed. You said, and I quote, at least she won't be around to whine about her friends. I was improvising, channeling every hurtful thing I suspected he felt. Mark's eyes darted around the room. He was sweating. He couldn't remember exactly what he had said in the haze of his greed, but he knew it was possible. You can't use that, his lawyer said quickly. 2-party consent. I'm not using it in criminal court, Brenda interjected smoothly, catching on to my bluff immediately. We are submitting it to the guardian ad litem for the custody hearing. Family court has different standards for admitting evidence regarding child safety. And even if it's inadmissible, once the GAL hears it, you think they'll ever let Mark alone with that girl? Mark stared at the USB drive. It looked like a grenade. If you drop the custody suit, I said, leaning forward. And if you sign over your rights to the house. I might lose this drive. I might forget the password. This is blackmail, Mark whispered. No, I said. This is a settlement negotiation. You wanted to play hardball, Mark? Here we are. Mark looked at his lawyer. The lawyer shrugged. If that recording exists, and if it says what she claims, you're dead in family court, Mark. And if they hand it to the DA? Mark slumped in his chair. The fight went out of him. He was a bully, and bullies always fold when someone brings a bigger stick. Fine, he croaked. I want no child support. And I want to keep my car. Done, I said. Sign the papers. He signed. He signed away the house. He signed away custody. He signed away his daughter for a used Buick and immunity from a USB drive that contained a recipe for lasagna. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than air. But my victory was short-lived. When I got home, Lily wasn't there. A note was on the kitchen counter. I can't be the reason you lose everything. I'm sorry. I'm going to fix it. My heart stopped. Fix it. What did that mean? I tracked her phone. It was moving. Fast. Toward the city. Toward the jail. Oh God, I whispered. She's going to see Jessica. I ran to the car. I called Brenda. Lily ran away. She's going to the jail. Why? I don't know, I said, swerving through traffic. But knowing Lily, she thinks she can convince Jessica to confess and clear Mark so the family can heal. She still thinks she can save them. It was the tragic flaw of children. They always believe that if they are just good enough, smart enough, or sacrifice enough, they can fix their broken parents. I arrived at the Suffolk County Jail Visitor Center just as Lily was arguing with the guard. I need to see her. Lily was shouting. She's my mother. I have rights. Lily. I yelled, running across the lobby. She turned. Her eyes were wild. Sarah. I have to talk to her. If I tell her that Dad is suffering, if I tell her I forgive her, maybe she'll tell the truth about the money. Maybe she'll give it back. Lily, stop. I grabbed her shoulders. There is no money. It's gone. And she won't give it back because she doesn't care. She does care. Lily screamed, pushing me away. She's my mom. You don't understand because you aren't a mother. The words hit me like a bullet. The lobby went silent. Lily froze, realizing what she had said. Her hands flew to her mouth. Sarah. I didn't. I stood there, feeling the old ache in my chest. The ache of the empty nursery. The ache of the years of negative tests. You're right, I said quietly. I didn't give birth to you. I didn't share DNA with you. But Lily, look at where we are. I am standing in a jail lobby at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday fighting for you. She is in a cell because she stole from you. You tell me who your mother is. Lily looked at me. She looked at the guard. She looked at the cold, gray walls of the prison. I just need to hear her say she's sorry, Lily whispered, her anger dissolving into heartbreak. If she says she's sorry, I can move on. I looked at the guard. He was a middle-aged man who looked like he had seen too much. He softened. Visitor hours are over in 10 minutes, he said. Miller is in meeting room B. She's meeting with her public defender, but I can see if she'll take a visitor. He picked up the phone. He murmured a few words. Then he listened. His face hardened. He hung up. I'm sorry, miss, the guard said to Lily. She declined the visit. What? Lily asked, her voice small. Did you tell her it was me? Lily? I did, the guard said gently. She said she doesn't want to see you unless you have money for her commissary account. She said no cash, no chat. Lily stood there, absorbing the blow. It wasn't a rejection, it was a transaction. Even in jail, Jessica was only interested in what she could extract. No cash, no chat, Lily repeated. She laughed, a dry, cracking sound. That's her. That's really her. I'm so sorry, Lily, I said, reaching for her. Don't be, Lily said, wiping her eyes. Her face changed. The desperation vanished, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I needed to hear that. I needed to know that I wasn't crazy for hating her. She turned to the guard. Tell her I hope the commissary food is terrible. We walked out of the jail. The evening air was cool. You aren't a mother, Lily said suddenly as we got to the car. I winced, preparing for another blow. You aren't a mother, Lily corrected herself. You're a dad. You're a mom. You're everything. You're the only parent I have. And I'm sorry I said that. It's okay, I said. We're okay. But we weren't fully okay. Not yet. Because Mark was still out there, and the legal system was about to turn the screws. The next 3 months were a blur of court dates. Mark's signing of the papers ended the legal battle for the house, but the identity theft charges stuck. The district attorney, armed with Brenda's evidence, wasn't interested in my settlement. They pursued Mark for fraud. The trial for Jessica was quick. Faced with the flight manifest and the blockchain receipts, her public defender advised her to take a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to 3 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of grand larceny. But Mark's case was messier. He refused to plead guilty. He insisted on a trial, convinced he could charm a jury into believing he was just a hapless victim of love. I was subpoenaed to testify against him. Walking into that courtroom was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to sit on the stand, look at the man I had married, and detail every financial crime he had committed against our family. Mrs. Evans, the prosecutor, asked, "Did you authorize the transfer of $52,000? No, I said. Did you authorize the opening of credit cards in your stepdaughter's name? No. Mark's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive shrew. He asked about the lockout. He asked about the nanny cam bluff, which I admitted to under oath, causing Mark to turn purple with rage. But the facts were the facts. The jury didn't buy Mark's love-struck fool act. They saw a man who had sold his daughter's identity to buy a lifestyle he couldn't afford. Mark was found guilty of identity theft and fraud. The sentencing hearing was brutal. Mark stood before the judge, weeping, begging for probation. Mr. Evans, the judge said, peering over his glasses. You betrayed the fundamental trust of a parent. You stole your child's future to fund your own vanity. Mark was sentenced to 2 years of house arrest, 5 years of probation, and ordered to pay full restitution to Lily, $18,000 plus interest. House arrest. Mark stammered. But I live in a basement apartment. I can't leave? You can leave for work in church, the judge said. Otherwise, you are confined. Consider it time to reflect on the home you destroyed. Jessica got 8 years in federal prison. When we left the courthouse, Mark was being fitted with an ankle monitor. He looked at me across the hallway. There was no love left in his eyes, only a dull, defeated resentment. Are you happy? He asked. No, Mark, I said honestly. I'm exhausted. But I'm safe. And so is Lily. We walked away. But the victory felt hollow. We had won the war, but the battlefield, our lives, was littered with debris. We were broke. My savings were gone. Lily's college fund was gone. The house was mine, but the mortgage was still heavy. That night, Lily came into my room. She was holding a box. What's this? I asked. It's the stuff, she said. The stuff Dad left behind. The stuff Mom sent me. I want it gone. I want to burn it. We can't burn it, I said, thinking of the smoke detectors. But we can purge it. The purge became our weekend ritual. We decided that if we were going to start over, we had to clear out the ghosts. We started with Mark's man cave in the basement. It was filled with trophies from his college days, old golf clubs he never used, and boxes of files. Trash, Lily said, tossing a box of old magazines into a black bag. Trash. Trash. We found a box of photos. Photos of Mark and Jessica from before I met them. They looked young and happy. Lily picked one up. They looked so normal, she said. How did they turn into this? People don't turn into monsters overnight, I said. It's a slow slide. A compromise here, a lie there. Until one day, stealing from your daughter feels like a rational business decision. We donated his clothes to a shelter. We sold his golf clubs on eBay. The money went into a new jar labeled Lily's tuition. Then came the hard part. The living room. The beige walls Mark had insisted on. The leather recliner he loved. I hate this room, Lily said. It feels like he's still sitting there, judging us. Then let's change it, I said. We went to the hardware store. We bought 5 gallons of paint. Sage green, Lily picked. It's calm. It's new. We spent the entire weekend painting. We covered the beige. We covered the scuff marks. We covered the past. While we were painting, the doorbell rang. It was a delivery man. Package for Sarah Evans, he said. I signed for it. It was a small envelope. No return address. I opened it. Inside was a cashier's check for $5,000. And a note. Sarah, I know it's not the $50,000. But I sold the watch Mark bought me for our anniversary 5 years ago. I never liked it anyway. Consider this a down payment on my apology. Barbara. Mark's mother. She hadn't spoken to me since the driveway incident. What is it? Lily asked, holding a paint roller. Grandma Barbara sent money, I said, showing her the check. For you. Lily looked at the check. Does this mean she forgives us? No, I said. It means she's ashamed. And shame is a powerful motivator. We'll take it. We finished the room. We moved the furniture. We threw out the leather recliner and bought a soft, velvet sofa from a thrift store. When we were done, we sat on the floor, covered in green paint, eating pizza. It looks like a different house, Lily said. It is, I said. It's our house. But there was one last ghost to exorcise. Mark emailed me the next day. He wanted his lucky cufflinks. He said he left them in the top drawer. He needed them for a job interview. I went to the drawer. They were there. Gold, engraved with his initials. I held them in my hand. I could mail them. I could be the bigger person. Then I remembered the credit cards. I remembered the gala. I remembered him standing on that stage, ready to sign away our home. I walked to the pawn shop down the street. How much? I asked the broker. $70. Gold's thin. Deal. I took the $70. I went to the grocery store. I bought steaks, ice cream, and a bottle of good wine for myself. I emailed Mark back. Couldn't find them. Must have been lost in the move. Good luck with the interview. It was petty. It was small. And it felt absolutely fantastic. 1 year has passed since the night of the gala. Life is different now. Quieter, but richer. I was promoted to partner at my firm. The story of how I took down a Ponzi scheme at a black tie event became something of a legend in the Boston financial circles. Clients specifically ask for the woman who stopped the plane. Lily is a senior now. She got into Boston College, early acceptance. She's studying psychology with a minor in criminology. She says she wants to help victims of financial abuse. Mark is still serving his probation. He works at a call center now. We hear from him occasionally via email. He sends child support, meager checks that arrive late, but he sends them. He's trying, I suppose. But trust is a glass vase. Once it shatters, you can glue it back together, but it will never hold water the same way again. I was sitting on the porch this morning, drinking coffee, hot coffee, in a peaceful house, when Lily came out. She was dressed for her graduation ceremony. She wore the cap and gown of Newton North High. "Hey," she said, sitting next to me. "Hey, graduate," I smiled. "Nervous?" "A little," she admitted. "Dad emailed me." "Oh." I kept my voice neutral. "He asked if he could come. He said he wants to see me walk." "What did you say?" "I said no," Lily said, smoothing her gown. "I told him that the tickets were for family only. And family are the people who show up when it's hard, not just when it's time to take pictures." She looked at me. "I gave your ticket to Brenda. Is that okay?" I laughed, blinking back tears. "Brenda will love that. She's probably bringing a flask." "Sarah," Lily turned to me. "I was thinking about that night. When I told you to disappear." My smile faded slightly. "We don't have to talk about that." "I do," she said. "I wanted you to disappear because you were the mirror. You showed me how ugly I was acting. You showed me how messy our lives actually were. It was easier to look at Jessica because she was a funhouse mirror. She made everything look distorted and pretty. But you were just real. And I hated you for it." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm really glad you didn't disappear, Sarah. I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad you fought." "I'm not going anywhere," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I'm like a forensic audit. I stick around until the math adds up." We stood up. She fixed my collar. I fixed her cap. "Ready?" I asked. "Ready," she said. We walked to the car. The house stood behind us, painted sage green, the locks changed, the ghosts evicted. On the mantelpiece, the frames were full again. There was a photo of Lily and me at her college acceptance. A photo of us making pizza badly. And a photo of just me, looking happy, looking seen. We aren't a traditional family. We are a stepmother and a stepdaughter, two survivors of a shipwreck who decided to build a raft together. And looking at her now, confident and strong, I knew that was better than any biological bond. We are real. And that is enough. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to relive, but I hope it reminds you that you don't have to accept the role of victim in your own life. Family isn't about blood, it's about who protects you. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to cut a toxic family member out of your life to save yourself? I read every comment. Stay strong, and see you in the next video. As the story closes, we are left with a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of standing firm in the face of betrayal and adversity. This journey wasn't just about uncovering lies or fighting for justice, it was about reclaiming self-worth, redefining family, and finding strength in the truth. It teaches us that family isn't defined by blood but by love, loyalty, and the courage to protect one another, even when the world feels against you. Life often challenges us with moments that test our boundaries and force us to make difficult choices. But as this story shows, choosing yourself, choosing to fight for what is right, can lead to healing and transformation. It's a testament to the fact that even in the darkest times, we have the power to rebuild, to create something beautiful from the ashes, and to find our place in a world that sometimes feels broken. What does this story inspire in you? Have you ever had to make tough choices to protect your peace or your loved ones? Share your thoughts below, or comment good if this story resonates with you. Let's keep the conversation going.